To practice like Division I football players. We're working right now on maximum effort, number one, and then, scheme and technique and things like that, number two. So we're getting these guys who are flying around and doing things right, and then we have a chance to have some guys that will make some contributions for us.
What's the biggest adjustment? Is it just the speed, or is there more to it than that?
Well, I ask those guys every day, what's the difference between now and high school football? And the one thing they say is tempo and intensity. Our offense is a high-tempo offense, so our defense has to be a high-tempo defense when we're going against our offense. So, those guys are used to, huddling up and looking at the sideline, getting a call, and having a chance to take a deep breath and wait for the guys to break the huddle. Right now, the ball snapped, the ball spotted, they got to get back to their spot, get the call, execute their technique, and then play with maximum effort.
We've been hearing about Tony Fields since spring. What are your thoughts on him at this point?
I think Tony has a chance to be really good. I think Tony's biggest strength is how hard he plays, and his biggest weakness is how he tries to make every play. He's got to learn that his plays will come to him, and sometimes you'll see if he tries to make a play that's not his, he'll vacate a play that is his. And then against the read option zone read teams, if you're trying to make every play and not just play in your gap, sometimes you guess wrong and the ball splits us, and that's what happened a couple times with our young guys.
Where's Gavin Robertson at now compared to maybe when you started working with him and he was still making that adjustment from safety?
He's still making the adjustment, but he's playing faster. We got to fine tune his technique a little bit, but he definitely has a better understanding of what his responsibilities are and plays faster. We just got to get him to play with better technique.
How many guys do you want to have in the rotation at those two spots?
Everybody that can help us win.
Game.
Everybody can help us win.
Can that be like six?
It could be six, easily be six. We've got, our blessing and our curse. Our blessing is we got a bunch of young guys. Our curse is we got a bunch of young guys. Now, I look in a meeting room, and there's only one guy in my meeting room I can look at and say, now, how did this fit for you last year, Rut? Everybody else is like, yeah, I was in high school, or, Gavin was on the special team, or Gavin was a redshirt freshman character on the special team. So Rut's the only one that has actual game linebacker experience that he can draw on. The other guys are learning on film, and they're doing a great job. That's one thing that young guys are learning right now is you can get work without getting work. You can get reps in the film room. You can see how the first group or the upper class or the older guys play to play. And so when your chance comes up, you got a chance to learn off of film. And they're doing a good job in terms of studying film and watching what the other guys are doing. But the biggest problem is we don't have, two established linebackers I can look at and say, do it the way those guys did it. Right now, it's Tony and Rutt and Jake, and then the freshmen are stepping in. The freshmen are stepping in and working in a 1s and 2 huddle. So that, they're getting it's trial by fire for those guys. They're coming in every day, watching the film. They're learning not only from their reps, but from the reps of the other guys. And if they continue to do that, we're going to be fine at linebacker. Our job as coaches is to make our scheme simple enough so that the youngest, most inexperienced, least football IQ linebacker can understand it. Our job is to teach them what to do, and it's their job to do it. And I think those guys they're like sponges. They come in the meeting room, they ask questions, they soak up the information, and they're taking notes, and they're doing things that are going to help them in the long run. I think that's one of the things I really like about that group.
What's typically the last thing that clicks for a young linebacker mentally?
Mentally is probably training your eyes where they need to be, and especially against Coach Rodriguez's offense, we got a lot of guys flashing in front of their face, guys cutting, slicing across the formation, is knowing what is your key and what's not your key and what your key's telling you. And sometimes you got to play with laser focus on your key and ignore all the other stuff around you. That's what the offense is trying to do. They're trying to get you to take your eyes off of your responsibility for 1 second, and the ball's in your responsibility.
Is Colin Schooler a guy who could play big minutes as a freshman?
After practice 6, I think physically he looks like a linebacker that can play in a Pac-12. Okay, now it's my job to make sure he mentally and understanding what we're doing, that all clicks. But he's a smart kid. He has a high football IQ, and he practices really hard. He's one of those guys who has really adapted to the tempo of our offense, and that's not easy to do.
Is he playing Mike?
Playing Mike.
Mike, okay. Which means a lot of responsibility.
A lot of
right?
responsibility, and the biggest issue, not an issue, but the biggest situation we had right now was we had, today we had Schooler at Mike and Tony at Will, so we got two guys who've never played, so they don't have anybody to lean on. If Rutt's in there, no matter what, Rutt will make sure that Will knows what to do and make sure everybody knows what the situation is. When you have two young guys in there, you got to hope one of them takes charge. And right now, I think Schooler's done a good job of taking charge for what we're asking him to do so far.
There are going to be points when Rutt's not out there, though, right? I mean, during games. So are you willing to live with that? Maybe kind of go through the growing pains early on for the gains.
Well,
later on?
It's our job to make sure that we don't have growing pains. I mean, it's my job to make sure that whichever two linebackers are in the game, that I'm confident they can execute our whole game plan. If they can't, we have to take things out of the game plan because we don't know who's going to be at this practice 6 or 7 or whatever it is. I can't say today Rhett's going to be starter, not starter. I can't say, Jake's going to be starter, not starter. Right now, they're all battling for reps. They're all trying to get in there, and they're all fighting to get, 5 or 6 reps at a time and see if they're ready to go.
Thanks, Coach.